screen, and how do I get all of these show up? Give me a moment here. There we go. Okay, so I got some people down the side now. All right, so we are on the Fit Coach Week 3, and our discussion today, we've got the natural healing and athletic approach to weight loss and shaping up for you and for your clients. We always say for you first, because you have to be able to do this and everything that we're teaching in order for you to experience it and know firsthand. Just like the different diets that we put you on, all the lessons that we put you through, you've got to get an understanding of it before you can actually help someone else in any way, shape, or form. And so the more that you experience in life, and the more that you get self-awareness about what you're experiencing, the easier it's going to be for you to actually help other people lose weight, shape up, get the right attitude they need to actually get on the bandwagon or get back on the bandwagon if they fall off of it. And then you're going to always be their go-to person that they're going to want to go to if they fall off the wagon, if they get pregnant and they gain a bunch of weight and they can't lose the weight, if they get sick, if there's death in the family, if there's a bad breakup, if they quit their job, get a new job, get fired from their job. So there's several different reasons why people gain weight, and it's hard for them to get it off on their own, and they're going to need help. So understand your personality. We're going to go over that, why you need to understand your personality and someone else's. Disease management the holistic way, which is what we've always stood by. And so we're going to teach you the ways that we do it, and in a very easy to implement way. So we're going to teach you that. Self-awareness versus other awareness and how to do both. There's going to be a very basic lesson on polarity, the one that changed my life. And so I'm going to go over that with you. It will not be in depth. It's going to be little baby chunks of information on something as difficult as polarity is to understand. Immunity, how to improve it, the foods, the supplements, the herbs, that kind of stuff that you need. Then Michele Morin, who's on the call with us, she's also in the Fit Coach Academy. She's going to present body awareness, self-agency, inflammation, massage, and how do you show up. Really, really interesting things. So you need to be really focused for that. Then you're going to have 2 reading assignments to do on your own, a Harvard study and the skin and joint natural supplement study. So we're going to go and explain these different topics to you in the most basic, easy to understand ways. And you could always come back to this information and study it later because it is pretty deep, but we're pretty deep people. So if you go down deep, then it's very easy to help someone on the superficial level. If you're superficial, it's impossible for you to help someone when they actually need a little bit deeper help. So that's why it's critical to get some of this information in your head. The first one that we're going to go with is the one that we have been using for decades, is personality. And we talk about it with every single client that we've ever had. You can ask them. Anyone that you know that's ever trained with us, you will find out that we are constantly talking about your personality, our personality, how we work together, and so forth. And it's really critical to understand personality because you want to make sure, number one, that you understand this person's personality so you make the workouts match them. So if this person's an extrovert, that takes a certain type of workout. An introvert, another type of workout. Someone that's more of a sensing person versus an intuitive. Someone that's a thinker versus a feeler. This will have to do with the music too. So all of that kind of stuff, including music and so forth, is going to be based on someone's personality. If someone is a judger or perceiver. And so these things are really important because they impact the session. I'll give you a simple example. I have a lot of people.
First of all, like as a preface to all of this, when it comes to personality, the reason that we're teaching you about personality is because this is mainly about communication, and not only how you need to understand how you prefer to communicate to people, but you also need to understand the differences in the way people prefer to understand things. And so one of the hardest parts of being a personal trainer is that you have all of these different personalities that you're working with, and then when they're all smushed together in a group, you have to make it a party that everyone wants to be at. And so when you're really, really good at that, then you're a great personal trainer. Everybody has fun in your sessions. It's a great flow. There's something for everyone there. Where we've had personal trainers before where they think it's all about them and they just want to show up and listen to their music. They want to talk about the things that they're interested in. They want to talk the way that they want to talk. And if they don't want to talk, they just want to count, play music, and expect people to come back and pay for 10 years straight, and it doesn't happen that way.
Right.
So we're teaching you how to be more sensitive to the personalities of others and get the best experience possible for them, and also let them be themselves in the session. If somebody doesn't want to talk a lot, then you don't need to make them tell you stories and make them dive deep and make them spend the time that they're paying you talking, where sometimes other people, they want to come in, they want to vent, they want to get something off their chest. This is their social time, and that's fine. But at the same time, you're like, okay, now squat and talk. Come over here, do this. Okay, now tell me your story. So you have to manage the whole flow as a personal trainer and make sure at the end of the day, people are getting what they need, but then they're also getting the experience that they want from you.
Exactly. And so she said it perfectly. That's exactly what you want to do. So when people end up liking to come to a session with you, it's because you understood their personality. And so that's the very first thing that you have to understand. It's not even hard.
And then they'll know that you understand them, and then they'll feel an incredible amount of trust.
Yep.
And then at the end of the day, that bond you have with that client and that trust that's created, that's why they continue to work with you to get to their goal.
Yep.
And that's why they keep pushing and eventually do get to their goal.
Yep, exactly. So I'm going to go over just some basic stuff about the personality types that all human brains are wired. There's about 16 main types of personalities, and we use this understand you personality method to just get right to it without someone having to take a test and get very in depth with it. When you just ask them questions, they're going to tell you, oh, yep, that's me. Oh, no, that's me. Or no, that's not me, or whatever.
And you'll be able to see. I mean,
you can see it almost right away.
You can see this without somebody taking a test.
Yeah, exactly. And so the first one would be extrovert versus introvert. And a lot of times people will think that means that's a bubbly personality versus a shy personality. Right. And that's absolutely not the truth. Shyness is an introvert or extrovert. Exactly. That's an actual issue. Shyness is an issue. Extrovert means I get my energy from being around people. And so I get a ton of energy the more people I'm around, and I get energized if I'm around a bunch of people. Introvert, on the other hand, is...
Well, first of all, introvert doesn't mean that you don't like being around people. It doesn't mean you're antisocial. It just means that you don't get energy from being around people. So it's still an enjoyable experience. It's still something that you want to do as an introvert, but that's not where you recharge your batteries. So Melinda and I are great examples of this because she's just over the line on extrovert and I'm just over the line on introvert. So she's going to get more energy from socializing, being around a group of people, and then she has to go spend time by herself and introvert and, meditate and do that kind of stuff, where I spend a lot of my time socializing and being outgoing for my career, and that's great. I love it. But I also have to plan times to introvert because that's where I recharge my batteries. And if I don't do that, then it becomes really unenjoyable and a chore for me to be around people, and I'm not a good giver anymore at that point.
Yep. So introvert versus extrovert is just where do you get the most of your energy? Around people or around alone? Right. And thinking in your head. Introverts also do a lot of their creativity, and they have a huge imagination, so they're in their head a lot. And so that's why they get refueled in their head. A lot of times you'll see people that exercise. So this is a critical thing here. Whenever you see someone that's raining out, it's snowing out, it's disgusting out, and you see somebody with their headset on running outdoors, no matter what the weather is, that's typically an introvert that's out there that's running. So this introvert likes to work out alone. They put their headset in or nothing at all, and they want to go do their training alone. And so I would, cut on myself for years. Like, I should be out there. This guy's out there running. I'm out there. And I never realized, wait a minute, that's an introvert out there exercising. I'm an extrovert. I like to work out with people. And so a big part of your clientele if they're gonna be extroverts, because that's 70% of the population. So 7 out of 10 people that you meet every single day will be an extrovert. Well, extroverts like to work out with other people. They are not really motivated to train by themselves. And so just understand that's where you're going to get a lot of your clients from, and they like the extroverted situation that a group brings, or that one-on-one, because they're talking to somebody. Yeah. So it's definitely more fun.
Yeah.
The next function, the second one, is now this is how you relate, how you perceive the world. This is either sensing or intuitive.
Yeah, this is how you take in information.
Yep. And so you either take in the info on the five senses, what you read, what you heard, what you tasted, what you saw, what you felt. And there is no other way that you take information in. What? Smell. Is that five? Okay. Well, yeah, you have to sniff too. So it's all the animal senses.
The five senses.
Those five animal senses, and that's how you take in information. So this person won't believe hunches. This person says, no, you're full of shit, bullshit. Who said that? That's not proven, blah, blah, blah.
If you're like, I have a gut feeling,
they don't listen.
I have a sneaky suspicion.
They don't listen.
They literally won't believe you.
Yeah. So you don't want to go against that person that has none of that sixth sense. They don't have that intuitive gut feeling.
Yeah.
And so to talk to them and to try to present that to them, they're going to look at you like you're psycho. And that's kind of a waste of time. Or they just will start doing the exercises and ignore you anyway. They think you're full of shit.
Right.
So the intuitive is the sixth sense. And what our research has proven about intuition that most people don't realize, intuition means hypersensitivity. It means we have an exceptional math skill that we connect dots really fast. And so intuitives connect dots so fast, we don't need a bunch of data. We've already done so much data. We're picking up so many things that other people aren't realizing that we're actually picking up.
So when it comes to talking to intuitives, those people like to talk more about concepts, about theories, about things that are not hard, concrete, where when you're talking to somebody who's more in the S, I'm such an intuitive. I just have to go straight to like, so what TV show were you watching? Or like, so tell me about the decor in your living room. What's going on with that?
That's exactly
or
what
like,
I do.
wow, it's really hot out today. What do you think about that? Like, just think of the most basic common denominator
happening right now.
Because whatever theory of whatever you just heard or whatever, they're not going to be interested. And if you start to talk about it, they're going to be like, and they're going to act really bored. And then they're going to be like, no, I don't like her.
And so even if your personality is an intuitive dominant, which we both are, I know the personality I'm talking to, and I drive to make them happy in the session, which means if they are a sensing person, like she said, let's talk about your decor. Let's talk about work. Let's talk about a promotion. Let's talk about whatever's happening in life right now. No future, no concept, no theory, nothing like that. They don't want to hear it, they don't believe it, and they don't catch on to it.
Cater to what that person wants to talk about and the way they want to talk about it.
Yep. And so that's when the intuitive and the sensing comes in hand. The third function is either thinking or feeling. And typically, most guys are in the thinking realm. But the most popular personality of all, which makes up about 70% of the world's population, is an extroverted, sensing, feeling judger. And so it's all, except for the extrovert, it's every single thing that's the opposite of me. So it's not very easy for me to get along with 7 out of 10 people. Anyway, thinkers versus feelers. What do the thinkers do? The thinkers are going to base all decisions based on logic. That doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? So thinking versus feeling. Feelers are not emotional, where they're making decisions based on emotions. They make their decisions based on how's it going to impact other people. And so they think about the impact of other people. The thinker thinks about the impact to a business, the impact to the science, the impact to the math class, the impact to, E equals MC squared, whatever, the impact to a theory or something like that. So it's very intangible how a thinker will decide. It's a little bit more tangible how a thinker will decide. The feeler is going to decide more on how it impacts others. And so they typically, even the music that they listen to. So the thinker listens to a certain kind of music and the feeler listens to another kind of music. So again, that's you want to find out more about their personality, so you can make sure you're playing the music they like. You don't want to put music in there that they don't like.
And the other thing very relevant to right now, feelers also get very impacted when like world crises happen. So everything that's going on with COVID and everything that's going on with Black Lives Matter and all the different chaotic things that are going on and all the different people that are hurt. These people will come into your session and it might have nothing to do with them specifically in the moment or their day, but they will feel a sense of overwhelm at what's happening to everyone around them.
Yeah.
So you just have to know this is what this person's experiencing.
Mhm.
This is what's on, you know, on their chest. This is what they want to talk about.
Mhm.
And it might not be happening directly to them, but they are more empathetic and feel for more people in that sense.
So that is thinking versus feeling. Also in your own relationship. So you knowing what your spouse or your mate's personality type is critical, because if you don't, you'll start accusing them, you'll start assuming stuff, and it's all bullshit. It's all stuff that because you just don't really know their personality and what is making them tick. So it's really critical. Know who your partner is, know who your employees are, your boss, whatever. Know those personalities so you know exactly how to deal with them and calm down the tension that happens.
This is what's going on in the mind. This is how somebody takes in information from the world and then what they do in their processing, so you know what's going to come out at the other end.
Yeah, exactly. And you have a lot more control and a lot more power. And then it also makes the situation that much more enjoyable.
Right.
So where you don't have to worry about having a conflict in a session because you actually understand that person's personality. Right. The last one is judging and perceiving. And so judging and perceiving is pretty easy to ask questions to decipher out of them what they are. I will tell you this just from years of training people, there's no such thing as someone who is a not on time person to ever turn into a be on time or be early person. I know that pisses off several people. Oh my God, they are so disrespectful. Oh my God, they should be on time. Oh my God, they're pissing me off. Oh my God. No, that's typically a perceiver. And so typically the perceiver is an open-ended personality type. Open-ended meaning they don't like to drive a judgment in anything. So being on time, they could do 3 more things before they leave to get to the session. They could do all kinds of other stuff before they actually get to the session with you. So being on time is not a top priority for them.
The easiest way, I think, to decipher a judger versus a perceiver is, does this person make a checklist? And do they enjoy checking things off that list every single day with pride? Does that give them a sense of accomplishment? Or are they like, no list? Or do they have a kind of a list, but it's more like one Post-it note with 3 things written on it that like never really gets done? That's not a list.
That's not a judger. That's not a J. That's not a judger.
They're not a list maker and checker.
Right.
Not a judger.
Yep. So the judgers like to file everything away. Judgers have to-do lists for everything. Judgers are on time. Typically, judgers are early. And so expect that too. They're going to be early. Like, what's wrong? Are you late? No, I'm not. I'm actually on time, or a couple minutes. I get all set up or whatever.
The first time Melinda helped me organize my taxes, well, first of all, I was out of town. Second of all, she had fun coming over and organizing my taxes. Third of all, I didn't know what I was doing. So my solution was to organize every single receipt alphabetically in its own file folder. And she was like, too much.
That's not going to help right off at all. The A's don't get written off. Meals do. Uniforms get written off.
When in doubt, a judge is going to be overly organized.
Yep. Right. And a perceiver is going to be the opposite.
It's going to be a big pile.
Yep.
With
Perceivers are big on piles.
It.
Yep. Perceivers say, don't touch my stuff. I know where everything is at. That's very much a perceiver. Perceivers typically are not on time. So I don't put my perceivers ever in the middle of my sessions. So if I'm going from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night, I assure you, you will never catch a perceiver being in the middle of all those sessions. That perceiver will throw my entire fucking schedule off. So I lie to perceivers. It's very, very, very good to lie to your perceivers. Never tell them the truth about their session time. Right. So if you put in there a 15, 20-minute window, you lie to the perceiver. You got them down for 4:30, you tell them their appointment's 4:15. No lie. Nothing works better than lying to your perceiver on the time. They're still going to be late, but they're only going to throw you off by maybe 5 minutes. Or I make the perceiver be first, or I make them be last. And so I'll do that too. I will rearrange the schedule and put them up those ends. I go into full acceptance about that. I don't try to argue with reality. Neurosis is when you hate reality. So 2 + 2 = 4, and I'm pissed off about it. And that's when you do something, that's when you have a neurotic thought. I'm not neurotic about people in time. There's people that are on time, people that are early, and people that are late. Deal with it. Figure out how to deal with it.
Trying to get in. That's on the website.
Okay, what is she trying to get into here?
Yeah.
So if she can't be in the right place.
I know, but this is the thing, so I don't know if she's not typing something right. That's from the website. And then
So that's not the right meeting numbers. There's no way that's a look up, see if you can look up the thing. We've got someone that's trying to log in and can't get in.
Okay, well, this is from the webpage, so.
And then the password. Okay.
The email that you guys sent out, the password was missing a digit.
It's missing a digit. I knew that was wrong. Okay, so that password is wrong. Thank you, Diane. Do you know the password, Diane, that Brittany can type to her?
For Kim.
821979.
That's what's missing. Thank you, Diane.
You're welcome. Me and my judging, my thinking over here. I got you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I have just went over the four different types that make up a personality type. So do a little bit more study of that, get a little bit better understanding of that. Understand yourself as well, so figure your own self out. The next page on there, talking about personality types, it's just giving you a little bit more understanding for you to read on your own. So get the reading on that on your own, and get your own figured out. Get your mate, your parents, whoever you're around all the time, get their personality types figured out, and then you're going to know them better. You're going to know why they're more emotional or less emotional, why they either tell you their feelings or don't tell you their feelings. Another thing to understand about personality types is whatever letters you are, your opposite letters are your weakness. And when those are your weakness, they're going to be your downfall. So it's never good to just be really strong extrovert, really strong introvert, really strong sensing, really strong intuitive, really strong thinker, really strong feeler, really strong judger, really strong perceiver. That's never good. Whenever you're over on one side, which you'll learn when we get to the polarity, it's going to make the other side so weak, you can have problems over there. And so is your client. And so that's why we use this to help educate them and help work them through, because 99% of the time the problems they're having are the other side of their personality that's too weak. It's underdeveloped. All right, go ahead, you read that.
Our holistic approach to health. The idea of holistic health is one that's gotten a lot of attention in recent years. So much of our culture focuses on doing the minimum self-care required to jump back into our 24/7 lives. But what happens when that system breaks down and we wind up sicker and more miserable than ever? Holistic health focuses on the idea that our wellness comes from more than caring for the body. It uses the connection among the mind, body, and spirit to create overall health that brings you better healing. And now we're going to go into that in more detail.
Okay, so any of you who have gotten into holistic health, this is clearly something that's over 5,000 years old. So this is way before medicine, way before drugs and so forth. And so when you approach something holistically, what you're doing is you want to get involved with the person, your client, and find out what's going on with your emotions, what's going on with your thinking, what's going on with your diet. You do not break them up into pieces like it's only a bad diet, or they're just not working out, or they just can't fall asleep. No way. Something's going on with the emotions. Something's going on with the mental state. Something's going on with the diet and the lack of exercise or lack of motivation. A lot of times I'll get kids that come in here and they'll tell me, because a big market that I target are kids and teenagers. And they'll say, yeah, my mom says I'm lazy. I'm just lazy. I'm just too lazy. I'm so lazy. My coach said I'm lazy. There's no such thing. So laziness is an effect. It's not a cause. Laziness doesn't cause stuff. Laziness is an effect. So I have to dig in deeper and find out what the perception is that's going on that's causing them to have that behavior of not actually doing self-preservation and winning. And so that's why you want a holistic approach when you're talking to anyone that you're talking to help solve the problem. Why did you gain the weight? What made you put the weight on? Why aren't you focused anymore? And so forth. And then you can help rule out the issues that they're having.
And this will affect people on a more surface level, but then also on a deeper causational level. So for example, let's say somebody's not motivated because they just broke up with their boyfriend. So they're not motivated to follow a diet because they feel sad. Well, then if you spend time talking through that relationship and get to the root of whatever they're going through emotionally, you can get their emotional systems back to a place where now they're motivated to take care of themselves, have a better positive body image, get back on track with their diet, think about their goals again. But then on a much deeper level, let's say somebody breaks up with their boyfriend and it's just life shattering to them. That could cause so much internal stress for, you know, whatever that means to them. It's causing so much internal stress that it can throw all of their systems into incredible amounts of stressful fight or flight. Cortisol goes up. Now, all of a sudden, even if they're not eating, even if they're working out every day, they're going to be gaining belly fat. They're not going to be sleeping well. All of their fat storing hormones are going to be increased. So it doesn't matter what they're doing on the surface at that point. It's not going to work for them because the underlying emotional issue is affecting the whole endocrine system and all of their sex and fat hormones.
Exactly. So that's why the deeper you can go, the more people you can help. So that's why we keep talking, and this is actually deep information. You'll read that in more depth. The connection between your body, mind, and spirit. So you need to realize, if you already don't, some of you already are into this, so this makes total sense to you. Some of you don't even understand this, have never read anything like this, so that's why we're making sure that we cover this.
But because most of you have been our clients, you understand that we do this with people, so you've at least experienced it through us. Yeah. Now we're breaking down exactly what we do.
Exactly, and why we do it.
It just looks like we're having girl talk, and it's actually very methodical and psychological.
And very on purpose. So we don't do anything accidentally. And we don't expect you to either. So we don't want any accidents in the session. You want to do this very methodical, and then it increases your feelings of security and your feelings. I really do know what I'm doing, and I feel so good doing this, and I'm getting so much satisfaction out of doing this because you're winning. And you're winning the whole time. You're not taking any chances.
And you know what your clients are getting out of it. So then when you go to approach somebody else and you're giving them your sales pitch to become your client, you know exactly what they're going to get out of it.
Right, exactly. So I'm going to give you a real life example. I had a little teenager. Her mother trained with me and competed with me in the Miss Fitness America pageants in the early 2000s. Anyway, so she has a little daughter now that's 13. The daughter was going on to high school. And the daughter was already on the cheerleading squad, but she was scared, petrified she wasn't going to make it come freshman year. So she's getting ready to go into freshman year. Anyway, so she comes in here and I'm like, well, if she's getting scared going into freshman year, this clearly is not physical. Why would I address the physical? That's not going to be the problem. Sure enough, she comes in, body looks perfectly fine, looks like a cheerleader body. It wasn't that. It's not her diet. I don't need to talk about diet. So I have to take the chalkboard out. I got to find out what's going on in this little 13-year-old's head that's fucking with her, that's going to make her sabotage her ability to actually get on that cheerleading squad. She made it for the last 6 years. Now, why is she going to mess up freshman year? So sure enough, she comes in. I'm writing down everything that's going on, and come to find out, she's getting psyched out by all her friends. What she doesn't perceive correctly is there's two kinds of cheerleaders. There's the dancing kind, and then there's a gymnastic kind. So she's more the gymnast, I'm more the dance kind. And so she just kept looking over at the gymnastic girls. And she's like, oh my God, I can't do a double tuck. I'm never going to make it. Oh my God, I can't do a back handspring. I'm never going to make it. Oh my God, she was making all kinds of shit up in her head. And they were all lies. So we had to go through the process of saying all the ways that she had power. What could she do? Could she smile? Could she stand with more authority? Could she talk louder? Could she have her hands perfect when she cheered? Could her jumps be great? That's all I worked on. So the mother paid me top dollar, about $5,000, go through the process of making sure she got on. I got her on 3 squads. Not 1, not 2. I got her on 3. So I got in and worked in her emotions and her thought process about how to approach the coaches. I'm a coach. So I know exactly what a coach is looking for. I went in and said, this is what the coach wants to see and hear. The coach doesn't give a shit that you can't do a back tuck unless it's mandatory, which is not, to do a back tuck. That's not going to keep her out. Then her friends were doing competition interference with her. That's an actual real biological, evolutionary, psychological thing. So competition interference is someone is saying something to you to psych you out, to make you not want to do it, so they can easily beat you. They went on the squad, you didn't get on the squad, all the better for them. And so I had to get her to understand that as well. She did, she went in, she kicked ass. So this is why mind, body, spirit, the holistic approach to training is critical. Don't just approach the person with one thing or two things.
And a lot of times when people come to you, they want to feel better on a physical level, but a lot of times they're coming because they just feel bad all over. So sometimes they don't know exactly what they're here to work through and what they're here to work out, but they just know, I don't feel good and I need to talk some things out and I need to make all of me feel better. So keep in mind, people are coming to you. Oh, look at Irene.
He's so cute.
He's so cute. People are coming to you.
He's totally looking at us.
And, you know, the 10 or 30 or 50 extra pounds that they have, that's just one of the effects of whatever else is going on in their lives and in their whole being.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so now we're going to move on to polarity. I'm going to give you, if any of you have ever read anything about polarity, it is a pretty difficult subject to understand. And so I like to break it down super easy. I'm going to give you a couple real life examples of polarity that I've just been through in my own life and the way that I've studied stuff like this. It's pretty critical to understand polarity because your clients are going to come to you, and 99% of the time when they come to you, they're going to be on one side of the spectrum or polar. And so it's going to be your job to help try to move them from that side that's too far over. And you definitely don't want to move them to the other side, and you certainly don't want to move them into what you think the middle is. And so that's what these triangles are here to show you. So I'm going to kind of review them a little bit. So one side, polarity, and then there's the other side in the triangle, and then there's that middle ground. So if we look at this bottom one, submission is over here on the right, a rebel is over here on the left, a person that compromises constantly, terrible place to be, right there in that middle. That is not a good place to be. And so when the clients come in and they're in one of these extremes right here, your goal is to drive them up here in the center spot, which is more acceptance and elimination of what's causing the pain. And people that compromise their real personality, people that are extremely rebellious, and then they're always getting in trouble, whether it's a teen. We had tons of teens doing drugs, helping them get off drugs. Their parents would pay us thousands of dollars to help them get off drugs. They were being too rebellious. Then over submissive, so being too submissive.
Yeah, because both of those things are a compromise in the personality. So
they're
well, both of those are a compromise. So it's a reaction to whatever's happening, where you're trying to see who that person is in reality and help them bring that in line with their reality and bring them to that middle of the road place, which is who they really are. Both of those down on the bottom are the spectrum.
Too. Yeah, but that's the bottom too.
No, but that's the spectrum of compromise and behavior.
Yeah. And we don't want to be in any of these. Yeah, you don't want to be in any of these. You want to be up here. And so your goal is to kind of drive them up. You want to drive them up. You don't want them to be like a coin. We don't want heads. We don't want tails. We also don't want to get all the way in that middle either, because that's still not winning in that middle. So let's do another one. So another one, you got depression over here on the right. We have a lot of clients that come in like that. And excitement over here on the left. I would do tons of this right here. And so we get too excited. Then there's apathetic. I couldn't stand this part. I can't stand that in people. I don't like all that apathy. I didn't realize none of these places were good.
Right.
And so I had to do a lot of study to get away from all of these things here. So each side is the same expression. One is a little bit more aggressive. The other one is more passive, but it's the identical expression. Mm-hmm. And it's the same problem. It's the same pain. Okay.
And people's reaction to things.
It just looks a little different, but it's the same pain. It's the same problem. So I'll give you a real life example. So I've done a lot of study on narcissism. So some of you may know a narcissist, some of you may not. So my mother is a malignant narcissist, just the worst kind to get raised with, to have a relationship with, to be anywhere near. Anyway, what ends up happening when you get raised with one or you date one or whatever, you end up going to the other side. And so the other side, so if she was over here in this extreme side on the, I would say she's on the left side, she's very aggressive narcissist. I was all the way over here on the right side, which is pathetic. And so patheticness is the opposite of narcissism. And so I would go too far over on that side, and both of us have the same exact problem, which is a problem with insignificance. And so the real problem that was expressing was too much insignificance. And so hers was an extreme aggressive expression of the world revolves around me. I'm so fucking great, blah, blah, blah. And then on my side, I would go to this patheticness. Nothing revolves around me. I'm not known anywhere. I'm not going after my own fame and my own everything that I need to actually prove for my own existence. And so that's what patheticness is. It's not a negative derogatory definition. It's just the polar opposite of what the narcissist does. And so many people don't realize that a lot of times you attract people in your life that looks like you're opposite, but they're actually the same as you. You're highly attracted to each other. So the narcissist kept attracting to my patheticness. My patheticness kept attracting to the narcissist. And so depressed people attract to the excitable people. And it's the same thing. It's the same person.
Also, you might think that you're dealing with something better because you're in one corner or the other,
You're
where
not.
I thought that depression was a really bad response to situations and a bad response to going through shit. And so I in turn went to the excitement side where I was like, look, I'm busy. I'm doing a lot of stuff. I'm keeping myself from feeling depressed. I'm being efficient and I'm helping people and I'm getting shit done. This is better. This is better. This is good, right?
This is better.
And then you end up spinning your wheels. And then 3 years later, you're like, I spun my wheels. I got nowhere. This didn't solve anything. Nothing's actually better. And this was not a better response. Neither one of them are good, but you have to have that understanding where, okay, both are reactions. You're trying to cope, you're trying to get through this thing, but the faster you can recognize, oh, wait, this is a coping response. Oh, wait, this isn't a healthy one. Let me try to visualize this place that I want to get to. Oh, this thing called serenity. All right, let me think about that and research that for a little bit. The faster you can research that, or the faster you can recognize that the behavior that you're choosing, one side or the other, good or bad, whatever you want to call it, neither one of them are good and helpful and useful, and neither one of them are helping you resolve anything or move forward.
Exactly.
Then you can actually say, oh, wait, hold on, let me slow down. Where do I want to go here? All right, let's go there.
Yeah, and that's exactly the words. She said forward. And so what I didn't realize is I was just belittling and looking down on the narcissist and saying they're the bane of my entire fucking existence. And in reality, I wasn't existing. I was over here in patheticness. I was doing the same expression, had the same exact fears as the narcissist, but mine were being expressed in patheticness. And so polar opposites, polarity is something you need to get in your consciousness immediately, so you pay attention if you are going to extreme with your own diet, or so you're fasting all the time, or you're binging all the time.
I was just going to say,
that's
people
polarity.
do this all the time when it comes to exercise. I can't tell you how many people would come in from a depressed state of laying on their couch, eating McDonald's every day, doing nothing. And then they decide they're going to go into the excitement side. They're going to go into this manic side. And then what happens to the body on a physiological level, and we used to warn every single human that came through our door at Body by Todd, we used to warn them about this in the fitness evaluation. We were like, if you go from doing nothing, sitting on your couch for years on end, eating McDonald's every day, and then you attempt to start working out every single day, eat nothing but vegetables and protein and produce from the outer aisle, you are literally going to make yourself sick in 5 days to 2 weeks. And I had a client get pneumonia 3 times in a year because she kept bouncing back and forth on this. Because even though it's good to exercise and it's good to eat healthy things, it's still change to your body, and all change is stressful. So when you're coaching somebody through change and change management and their response to change, you have to say, okay, that's good that you're doing those good things, but you need to take it down a notch. If you keep going like this, you're going to burn yourself out in 2 weeks, and then you're going to be on your back with pneumonia for 2 weeks, and then where are we going to be? So it's your responsibility to be the voice of reason. And even if somebody's excited, even if they're doing good things, you need to point them towards the top of that triangle there.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. The way she said it. So imagine a triangle constantly. What she just said was, she said that person was over here in this passive side of polarity on depression, and they just are trucking along. If you look here with my cursor, trucking over to the left side, trying to get out of apathy, and they're trying to move over to excitement because they think there's so much great shit over there where excitement is, and they're fucked when they get there. It's the worst way that they just flip the coin. And notice, as Brittany said earlier, that's not moving forward. You went sideways.
And they're just going to ping pong back and forth.
Yes, you need to get them to go upwards and move forward. You move yourself forward
Yeah.
first. You cannot coach anyone when you can't do it yourself.
Mhm.
So you have to coach yourself. So let's go to the next one, the second one. So we got the right-hand side, which is the passive side, fearful pessimism. We have practical realism. Oh boy, how many people have you heard say that's just not realistic?
Or be more realistic.
Be more
You
realistic.
need to be more
That's
realistic.
bullshit. We're not going to get that. Then all the way over here is blind optimism. So these things are all down here. None of them are good. The conversations never go good. There's always arguments there.
Let's talk about like clients. Let's talk about like a girl in love.
Yeah.
Because you'll see people come in and they'll be in fearful pessimism. Oh, I don't know if I should join a dating site. Nobody's going to want me. I'm scared to go out with this guy. Nothing good's going to come from it. I've been sitting on my couch for 5 years. What good's going to come from this? And then what would you say the practical realism of that situation, of that example would be?
When someone is talking about them,
Where somebody's
usually
like, get
behind
more
their back.
realistic.
Yeah, you need to be realistic. You're
Yeah.
getting up in age.
Right.
You really should actually get on dating sites, and you should pay top dollar to go and find someone that matches you, like
Right.
eHarmony or something
Or like,
that
you're not
matches
going to
you.
find a guy with all those qualities.
You
He's
got
nice
it's time
to
to
you.
get real.
He's nice. What
Right.
else do you want?
It's time to get real. This is not the truth because it's not
Right.
moving you up.
Right.
And you can tell in the conversation. You know when you're having a conversation, this doesn't feel good.
Right.
This isn't, I don't feel like we're going forward here. Feels like an argument. And whenever something starts to feel like an argument, one side of the polar, the other side of the polar.
Right.
Or maybe just a little bit further down the polar, which is practical realism. And then blind optimism, which the goal here is a clear vision of reality.
Wait, hold on. Blind optimism. That would be where the girl goes out with the guy 2 times and then she's naming her babies and planning her
We're
wedding.
getting married.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
We're
blind
getting married
optimism.
next week.
They're taking it so far. Blind optimism, you're just talking on the phone. You haven't even met and you think this is the one. That's so far. That's polar.
You know
So that's
nothing
too
about
polar and it's usually going to end really bad. And so you want to stay out of both of those polars right there.
Right.
Now here's another one right here. This one, I see this one a lot, and this is where it's a bad place to be. All of us have been here before. My little 13-year-old, the cheerleader was there. I'm really patient with this one because the ego, the human ego gets stuck in this one right here. And if it, what are you written? This right here, antipathy.
Oh.
So, okay, let me go to share screen again here. Hold on a second. New share. Is it on here? No, I thought I had it. It's not. Okay. Anyway, antipathy is extreme hatred. And so when you really hate someone, you've got all kinds of reasons and so forth. Antipathy is just a hatred. It's an extreme hatred. Now, I have clients that will go too far over to sympathy, and they should have no sympathy. So they'll have sympathy for being sexually abused. What? They'll have sympathy for child abuse. They'll have sympathy for just criminals. And that's stupid. And then indifference, I'm just staying in the middle. I'm not gonna talk about anybody either side. That's indifferent. That's not doing shit either. So you got the ones that are hateful, hating. The ones that are sympathizing like crazy. Again, this is just too far over on both sides. And now we're going to have wars. We're going to fight back and forth. We're going to argue nonstop.
Well, and also the thing is, like, you lose yourself in that. Like, when all of somebody's energy, when all of your energy is going towards hating someone, that's where your focus is. It's all about them. It's all about the things you hate about them.
Yeah.
All the focus is on them, and it's not about you.
Yeah.
When you're indifferent, it's clearly not about you because you're not standing up for yourself on anything.
Yep.
And then sympathy, once again, it's all about them.
Yep.
They didn't mean to do that. They were having a bad day. Well, I mean, he's not always like that. He has really good intentions. He has a good heart. I just know it'll be better. It'll be fine. And again, where are you?
Yeah.
You're not in the story.
Yeah.
And so pointing forward towards this benevolent understanding, that's where you have an understanding in an empathetic way of where someone's coming from. you can understand
Mhm.
and not condone their behavior.
Yeah.
So you can say, I understand why you did that. I
Yeah.
understand why you feel that way,
Yeah.
but I don't agree with that.
Right.
You can also say, I understand why you did that. I understand why you feel that way. I understand why you said that to me, but I'm not going to permit that in my life anymore.
And I'm
So
holding
you're
you
not going to be,
accountable.
or you're not going to be in my life anymore.
Right.
I'm going to remove myself because I don't need a friend or a relationship like
Yeah.
that.
Exactly. Exactly. So benevolent means kind. And so it means kindness. Kindness doesn't mean a pussy.
Right.
Kindness
It's not a
doesn't mean sympathy.
pushover.
You're not a pushover.
You're not a wet rag.
You're helping them pull out of either one of those polarities.
Mhm.
And so those polarities, this one right here, this is a hatred of a boss. This is a hatred of a mate. This is a hatred of their job. And so you want to drive them up into an understanding of themselves better so they don't go get another job that's on the sympathy side, the same job they currently have, just in a different place. They actually start to drive up and get a job that matches them better.
Mhm.
And so this stuff's not hard to do.
Right.
All we want you to see is you see the big box, the big one that says opposite, opposite, and balance up here. Stay out of this middle ground. That is not balanced.
Right.
Stay away from the opposing corners. Those are not balanced.
Mhm.
Drive people up into that top part right there, which is so powerful.
Right.
Your value will go through the roof. You have no clue how valuable you will be to people.
And
They
so-
won't even know why you're so valuable. They will not stop paying you. They're going to forever want you as their trainer or coach or
Yeah.
whatever, because you're going to be able to help them get out of these extremes. We don't get taught this stuff. And
Right.
this is something that we've said for years, like, they don't teach this shit in school. They don't teach money in school. They don't teach mortgages in school. They don't teach this. And then one day I just said, fuck it. They don't teach it because we're supposed to.
Right.
That's what we're supposed to be
Right.
teaching. And that's what we're teaching now. And this is what our fit coaches are going to be about. How to help
Mhm.
someone get out of those polar sides and then get into the healthiest frame of mind they could possibly be in.
And if you think about it as in, like, you're supposed to be the voice of balance, well, you're supposed to be the voice of balance in all things. So you're supposed to be the voice of balance on diet. You're supposed to be the voice of balance on exercises, on supplements, on all of these things that are on a more physical, tangible level. But then also in that, just like we were talking about mental, spirit, and physical, the whole holistic health circle, you also have to talk about these more esoteric things with people. And again, if they need to talk about their relationship and you need to be the voice of balance,
Mhm.
pointing them forward on that
Yep.
triangle,
Yep.
well, that's going to help them stick to their diet and their exercise routine magically. It all works together.
Absolutely. I'll give you one more example before we switch the pages. So I've got another client, and she'll come in and she'll say, my boyfriend said this and this and this and this and this. Can you believe he said that? Can you believe that? Can you believe he doesn't give me this? Can you believe, can you believe, can you believe, can you believe? And then I just look at her and I just stare at her. And she goes, you're going to take his side. I'm like, no, I'm not. Well, you're not going to take my side. I'm like, well, your side is a side of pity and it's pathetic. I'm not going to take the side of pathetic. Well, where should I think? And I'm like, I think you should just consider why he's doing what he's doing. So let's try to figure out why he's doing what he's doing. And let's just think about it for a second. And then when we think about it, it ends up taking her away from the sympathy, away from the pathetic, away from the self-pity. And she starts to move up to a better understanding. And she's like, oh, I guess he does like me. And so where she was headed was that polar, I need to break up. He doesn't like me. He doesn't appreciate me. She's making all this bullshit up. And that bullshit's over there on that sympathy side, that pathetic side. And so that's why just a really quick little conversation over, can you believe he didn't take the trash out? Can you believe he didn't say thank you when I told him to do this? Can you believe he didn't say, yeah, I bought the almond milk because you told me to? That's all right. That's all right that he didn't do that. You don't need to go into self-pity over it. And so those are real life things that happen every day in every single session. And your goal, stay at the top of the pyramid at all times. Always stay at the top of the pyramid. All right, here we go. Foods and natural health. You're going to do the majority of the reading on this stuff on your own. So I just want you to see that we've got actual important things here about superfoods. So superfood list, we go through all the different superfoods. You need to read those. You need to understand those. If you like them, put them in your lifestyle. If you don't like them, don't eat them. There's no sense in trying to force yourself to eat something you don't like, force yourself to eat something you're allergic to. That's stupid. You're not going to make your clients do it either. That's not reality.
Right.
I can't stand people arguing with reality. Arguing with reality is neurosis. 2 + 2 = 4, and I'm pissed off about it. No, I don't put up with that shit. People, they'll say all the time, but you're supposed to have MCT oil. I got people that are allergic to it. I got people that hate it. No, You're not going to have MCT oil. But you're supposed to lift heavy twice a week. No, you're not. You're supposed to lift according to what your goals are, and you got to work around what you have to work around. Next up, more superfoods. You're going to read all those.
If you're like Melinda and you don't like yogurt, don't eat it.
No. What is the immune system? All right, so this is pretty big. The immune system, we want to talk about this because, especially with all the COVID shit that's going on, you need to get a sense of security and stability at the top of the pyramid here, not down in here, no extremes, about the immune system, what you can do to give it more power, what you can do to help your clients have a stronger immune system.
Hold on. And let me tell you, it starts with what you put in your mouth and what you're eating and what starts to digest in your gut. So when all those Twinkies flew off the shelves and all those frozen pizzas flew off the shelves, along with the toilet paper at the beginning of this COVID season,
That was whack.
the Twinkies were the worst thing those people could have been buying. You don't want to get sick? Don't buy Twinkies.
All the entire flour, sugar, and pasta
Oh my
aisles
God.
got raped.
I had no
At all the
problem
stores.
getting broccoli. Other
Yeah.
shit was out.
Yeah.
I had zero problems getting
None.
broccoli at any time during this pandemic.
None. Not one time was the organic section wiped clean.
Exactly.
Not one time. So immune system comes from the gut, and the gut is the seat of all emotions.
Mhm.
So when someone's gut is not digesting foods well, they are an asshole.
30%,
No matter what.
30% of your brain cells are located in your gut.
Mhm.
So it's not like crazy witch talk. When you're like, I have a gut feeling about something, you're like, my stomach's upset. Every time that's happened to me, it's literally been because real shit is going down or about to go down, and my gut is adding shit up. Again, we said intuition adds things up faster than your brain can mentally process it. Every single time, it's the cells in my gut are adding things up, and they're like, whoa, we got something to tell you here. So you better listen.
So the gut is where the beginning of immunity begins. You need to read all of this stuff about gut health, more stuff about consumption, conventionally raised meats, all that. You read it.
It'll help you even more than a max.
All natural vitamins in the immune system. We are huge into vitamins. You can't read enough information about vitamins and supplements and herbs and all that. Know it all. Read it constantly.
And when people say, do vitamins really work? Well, if you've ever read the list of all the shit you should be eating on a daily basis in order to get all the vitamins you should possibly be getting, first of all, I don't like most of those foods. Second of all, that's a shit ton of food, and I would have to eat like 4,000 calories a day. And so that's not happening for like all of the reasons above. Third of all, you just pee out whatever you don't actually need. So it's fine. Just take it all. Take whatever you feel like helps you. I take all of it. I've taken vitamins for like 25 years or straight at this point. It's all good for you.
Right. So another thing on vitamins, though, any kind of supplement, I test it. If it doesn't work for me, why am I going to tell somebody else to do it?
True too.
So I won't do that either.
Right.
So like shark cartilage versus glucosamine chondroitin and turmeric, shark cartilage did nothing. So I refer no one to shark cartilage. Glucosamine, what works wonders, glucosamine chondroitin, and I also love turmeric. Why? I did it. I saw immediate results. So I love those kind of things. Right here, I'm going to give a little example of Cindy. So Cindy is she's also one of our fit coaches, and she is a triathlete. And since she was in high school, she was having issues with waking up in the middle of the night hungry, a couple hours after going to sleep, and she'd have to have a little snack, and then she'd be able to go back to sleep. And so I had to do a lot of research. I was like, what is this? This just makes me think either hormones are happening or something is too low in her system. And so sure enough, did a bunch of research. It's a very common condition. And so sent her the research. So this is stuff that you can do. You research, you copy and paste it, put in the email, send it to your client. Send them over to Amazon to buy a bottle of it if it's something that we don't represent or whatever. And so she got on it, and she just sent me a message today. She's like, 3 days, she's already sleeping. She's staying asleep. So something in that concoction of that supplement, ashwagandha or something else in there. It was something like that. One of those things her body was in need of, and then it was keeping her asleep and keeping her cortisol. So it was about adrenals and cortisol. And so sometimes you don't know the answer to something. You just ask them all the info. You go on Google, you start Googling stuff, you end up finding the stuff. And so that's why you just want to get engrossed in supplements and natural healing and the immune system, and so much stuff will start coming your way. Okay, so next page on this, on vitamins. Are there foods that are bad for the immune system?
Twinkies.
So read them.
Processed foods may be problematic for your immune function.
That's so
Toxic
PC.
metals such as cadmium, lead, and mercury are immunosuppressive.
Anyway, processed foods are horrible. Obviously, the reason why they took trans fats out of the human diet is because they were destroying people's immune system.
And number one, if you just start looking around at all the places there's processed sugar, wherever there's processed sugar, there's other shit. So if you just work on getting processed sugar out of your diet, that'll pretty much clear up everything else.
Right. And like Diane as an example, Diane is our power lifter. She won first place in the power meet we went to back in November of last year. Prior to that, on her diet, she lost like 17 pounds in like 7 days. She was losing weight so great. She also, we found out she was having too much maltodextrin, horrible processed sugar. It's in everything. Pre-workout stuff, it's in all kinds of bullshit. Maltodextrin will literally cause so much inflammation. Diane?
You guys, Women's One a Day has it in it. I'm not joking. It's in everything you fucking look at. Everything. It's in reduced sodium taco seasoning packets. It's everywhere.
It's so stupid to be everywhere.
When I cut it and I switched to a natural multivitamin, my nails got stronger. My hair can't stop growing. There's a reason you've seen me with a headband on every freaking day, because this is all gray, all of it. Because my hair won't stop growing.
Yes, my hair won't stop growing. So maltodextrin is one of those bad immune destroyers.
Yeah.
And so that's why you want to be careful. And so when we're talking about this stuff, you got to get in the habit of looking at labels and helping your clients, because sometimes you'll get a client, they'll get so frustrated. I'm eating the diet. I'm doing what you say. I'm working out. Why am I not losing weight? And it could be that vitamin, just like you saw just now. It could be a pre-workout. Oh, I'm just doing my pre-workout before the workout. I go, you send me a picture of that label.
Yeah.
Constantly you say, no, you tell them to take a picture, get a picture of that label and get that label sent, because it'll look like everything's all peachy. And then one or two things are coming in and it causes so much inflammation, it's destroying their immune system.
Also beware of whatever new trendy thing is out there in the fitness and health aisle, because you have no clue how many trends I've been through with clients where people bring shit in from the grocery store. And now the latest kick is this like keto cereal. Do you know how many fucking chemicals you have to put in cereal to make it actually stick together and be cereal and then also be keto? I'll just say that about it.
I don't think that the immune system is going to get overjoyed by that. All right.
Cereal is not made out of butter, okay?
Summary, how to support healthy immune system. Read all of that. Okay. I think we're coming to a close here. Yep. This is our final thing, and then we're going to move on to Michelle. So recipe assignment for the week, protein pancake recipe. And so we have so many of our fit coaches that love to make protein pancakes. This one is one that I took from Rachel. And so the way that you do this protein pancake recipe, you got a cup of the Formula 15 protein powder, a half a cup of almond milk, 2 eggs, they could be egg whites or the whole egg, a half a cup of any add-ins that you like, whether it's some crushed nuts or chocolate chips or berries. I saw at Kroger's there is a chocolate chip that is a full vegan chocolate chip. And then I saw another one that has no milk in it. So it's another version that has no milk at all. Then you could garnish it, instead of putting syrup on it, jacking up your blood sugar, you can garnish it A, with some kind of a nut butter, B, room temperature coconut Cool Whip or a regular Cool Whip, let it kind of melt down a little bit, and then, or some almond butter and honey.
I made this really good berry compote the other
great.
day.
Great.
So throw like, first of all, use a really big container, because I also made a disaster in my microwave. So get a really big container, like a 4-cup container, and then put like half a cup of berries in there, and then like a 1/4 cup of lemon juice, and then like a tablespoon of agave. This is how I bake.
That's not a J on recipes.
So just throw all those 3 things in there, and then mush it up, and then put it in the microwave until it boils. And the reason I said a really large container, when it boils, it's going to go like that, and you're going to bury shit all over your microwave if you don't catch it.
Okay, that sounds good.
But that was really good to put, because a little bit tart, a little bit sweet. A lot of times when you try to take things in a tart direction versus just try to be super, super sweet, you use way less sugar just because you need a tiny bit of sweetness to counterbalance that tartness. So
Okay.
that's what I like to do.
So there we go. So
Yeah.
there is something you can put on protein waffles or
Yeah.
protein pancakes that doesn't have to be maple syrup.
Yeah.
All right. So now we have dug in. We're moving on to Michele, and we have to keep. I think we have to keep the volume on for the recording, don't we? Even with Michele coming in.
Yeah.
Or can we mute us and let just Michele
No, she
talk?
can talk.
And should I mute us?
No, let's not.
Okay. All right. We're not going to take a
Dangerous.
chance, Michele, on muting
Well,
us.
you're gonna dive in when you need to, so.
Okay. All right. So let me.
Are you going to introduce her?
Yeah, I'm going to introduce Michele. All right. So who is Michele Morin? Michele has been, she was a personal assistant to David Copperfield. She has been on the stage crew working for many top celebrities, from Britney Spears to John Mellencamp, Willie Nelson, NSYNC. There's just tons of celebrities. She is a certified personal trainer. She has been through our PTO Academy. She also is a licensed massage therapist. She's very much into holistic healing and the mind, and just getting everything in sync on this whole entire holistic level. And homeopathy, herbs, diet, all of that. All the years I've trained her, anything that has happened to me with a food allergy or whatever, I ask her, and bang, she's got an answer for me. I go get the stuff, I use it, I just get flabbergasted every time. So I want you to get a understanding. She's very advanced, so do not get intimidated by the stuff that she's talking about. I asked her to just give us little bite-sized pieces of it, and we'll keep expanding on it. But this stuff is just so amazing, so awesome, so immediate, and she's had to go through a lot of pain herself with her own family and her on her own body and so forth. So she comes from that background of so much self-experience that it's actually made her really, really good in all the stuff that she knows. So, all right, Michele, I gave the intro on you, so let's hear what your lessons are all about today. I'm super excited.
Awesome. Well, thank you. There's so much I want to say about things that you said. I wanted to jump in so many times because it all ties in. And I think that ultimately, when you asked me to do this, I wasn't sure exactly. There's so many different ways you can shape this conversation. And so body awareness is what came up, because ultimately, my understanding, what I've seen in my massage practice and in the world, is we're really not paying attention to what our bodies do. And our bodies are so full of so much information that we do not access, which is just shameful. So I have the quote up here, I think therefore I am, right? It's a 400-year-old quote, and I would say we have 400 years of undoing, of numbing, ignoring, disregarding our bodies, right? Because all of a sudden with that quote, we have this vessel that is just around to carry this most important brain from place to place to place. And while it's very useful, it comes, cutting everything off below the neck comes at a cost.
Oh, wow.
So one of the things you talked about, like we were talking about intuition and like how some people aren't, they don't believe in that stuff. Listen, anytime you meet a new person, below cognition, within 30 seconds, you're assessing whether or not this person is safe. It's not something you're thinking. It's that gut feeling, right? You're assessing, do I want to continue this conversation? How open do I want to be? Where do I want to take it from here? That is all happening through our bodies, right? It's an information network, and we need to use it. And I think that the one thing that we can do with all of our clients, I do this with my massage clients, is just getting them to become more aware of what the body is trying to tell them, all the cues that we get. So let's see. Okay, so I have the other part of this. You are what you practice. So we're all practicing something. Okay, we're all showing up in a certain way. Most of us, when we walk into anything, we're either coming from something and still that's still lingering, or thinking about where we're going to next and projecting out. So hard to stay in the moment and centered and focused, right? Oh, you went too fast. Could you go back?
Sorry.
That's all right. I'll do the next slide thing.
Okay, that's exactly what you need to tell me.
All right, so you are what you practice. So most of us, human beings are wired, and this will be at the end too, so you don't have to necessarily take these notes, but every human being comes into a body wired, hardwired for safety, for connection, for belonging, and for dignity, okay? Every single human being, and every single human being has different needs and interpretations of what that is, okay? So I don't care if you had the best parents in the world, somewhere in there, there's gonna be a fracturing of one of these things. And then before puberty, you don't have any coping skills, like mental coping skills to deal with stress, right? This is a stress. When safety is fractured, it's stressful. And so that's when the body kicks into fight or flight. Now, everybody's familiar with fight or flight. You know, it's a no-brainer. But what we're not as familiar with are there's other coping mechanisms that the body has to take care of these fractures. So we have fight, we have freeze, or maybe the startle response, you might call it. You have avoid, you have comply or appease, or you have disassociate.
Oh.
And so in the body, you can actually see all of these strategies come up when a body is under pressure, real or perceived, okay? Pressure can be interviewing for a job, doing this thing for Melinda with hardly any notice. It could be having a difficult conversation. It could be setting a boundary. It could be trying something new and feeling foolish about it and making mistakes. All these things are pressures. And so we've practiced our, this fight or flight mechanism because of these original sins of fracturing of connection, dignity, belonging, and safety over a period of a childhood. And now they've become habituated and we don't even know that we're doing them, and we're showing up with them all the time. So I'm going to go through them real quick. And usually when I'm doing this in person, I actually make people do it, because most of what I do is, it's not taking notes. It's like, you're going to experience it. So if you want to go through them, feel free. But I always start with the startle response because it's the most familiar, right? So you hear a loud noise, someone says something that surprises you, and I'm exaggerating, but so if you do that right now, just exaggerate it, just do a startle. And you'll notice maybe you're not breathing, your joints are locked, your eyes are bulging, things feel like you're holding, shoulders go up. It might get exhausting after a while, right? But it's an automatic response. Usually that one isn't the one that people live in. It's usually it's a pretty quick flash in the pan. The other ones are usually people's favorites, right? So if you think about fight, fight is, if you think about somebody Melinda, listen to me right now. I'm going to get this point across. I'm going to be right, right? And there's this kind of intensity that comes forward. They're not relaxed. They're out through their eyes, and they're maybe have the finger going, right? You have a void, which is literally I do this with my kids a lot, full confession. I call it the drive-by. So it's I'm walking through the living room. I need you to clean the litter box. Who you? I got 3 kids, right? Who? But I'm going to the next thing. So if I actually stop and I say, Miri, I need you to clean the litter box, I've made a connection.
Okay.
I've seen her eyes, and I'm not just in my own world of I've got so much going on. I'm just spewing off instructions to people to just cater to, that later when they're not done, I'll get frustrated about again, because I didn't make a proper connection, right? So I avoid that because I don't want to admit that I need help, or I'm too busy, or whatever my story is around that, just avoid, right? Or I'm not going to talk about something that makes you uncomfortable. That's another favorite of mine. Oh, I'm going to make you uncomfortable, so I'm not going to bring this up, right? And avoid that. Then you've got appease and comply, right? So comply and appease, and it might be a little harder to see on the screen. Usually it's a little bit of a shoulder slumped, heart caved in, a yes person, I am super busy, I'm super stressed out, but sure, I'll do that thing for you too. Just kind of almost forsaking yourself for another, just because you don't want to set the boundary. Just it's easier to comply. And then you've got disassociate. Now disassociate's trickier. It's usually tied to trauma, I'd say. People can disassociate internally. So you can kind of fade away and you're still talking, but you're not really present. The eyes are glazed over. Or you can literally kind of go up and out of your head and just like not really be there in that sense. And again, I don't know how this is registering through video, but so those are like everybody's mechanics that they have, their tools that they have in their toolbox ready to go from birth on. And so if somebody, you know, if your safety is fractured, you're one of those is gonna kick in, right? And it's gonna take care of you. So, and then every time that happens and it reoccurs and you feel pressure, if fight becomes your go-to, your mainstay, the thing that you're most comfortable with, it's gonna be quick as fire. It's a reaction. It's not something you're gonna sit there and think about. It's gonna be in action before you've even realized you've caused harm, right? Because normally if you're going into fight, you know, you're probably going to say something or do something that is going to end up causing harm to somebody, right? Maybe somebody you love, maybe somebody you don't love. The cost may vary, right? So training your awareness to like, okay, what happens to me physically when I'm under pressure, right? So do I have a favorite? And then you'll feel a shift. You'll feel a hot flash. You'll feel rage. You'll feel your jaw clench. You'll feel your breath stop. You will find something in you. You'll start to be aware. I'm triggered. Okay. And so what do you do with that information, right? So one of the many journeys that I've been on is in somatics, and that has to do with like physical practices so that we learn what neutral is. Like your pyramids was talking about, what was at the top of the pyramid? Benevolent, what was it called? Benevolent understanding, right? It's fine. It's coming to a place where you can be neutral inside of yourself, and then you practice that so that you learn to discern, this is where I'm neutral, this is where I'm connected to what I understand, these are my emotions, versus I'm reactionary and I need to discharge the emotion that I feel inside of me right now because I can't take it anymore, right? And making it, and just changing the narrative around. So here I have, you are what you practice, right? So I'm sure in training there's like, I think it's 12 days, right? 12 days of a new thing before your body starts to acclimate, right? When I was on the road, it was 2 weeks of any tour. The first 2 weeks of any tour just were the worst because we were all learning as we went how to work together and take apart our own stuff and put it together and stay out of each other's way and find some sort of harmony to get us in and out efficiently and smoothly and unharmed. In life, it's 300 practices of any new thing with your body before you start to build muscle memory.
Okay. Wow.
3,000 practices before it becomes unconscious or more habituated, right? Okay, so think about what we've all been practicing and what it's been taking care of. All right, so let's look at the next slide. Can you flip the slide?
Okay.
So I've shared this picture with Melinda and with Todd, and it was more stunning watching it live. And but these are all GOP candidates for 2012, okay? And what I found interesting about this is, like, again, you are what you practice, right? So we've highlighted Michele Bachmann and Rick Perry and Ron Paul, right? That's the last one. I didn't highlight him myself, but he definitely has some body language going on. So if you look at them, like Rick Perry, what would you say? Just look at him, what his adaptive strategy, what is his strategy for dealing with pressure and stress?
He's got fist clenched.
Fist clenched, that chest is up, that's forward, he's taking up.
He's in fight mode.
Right? There's almost no room for anybody else around him. You know? And maybe that's good. Maybe like that's a good boundary for him. Who knows? And Michele Bachmann is like crumpling in on herself. So is Ron Paul a little bit, but I'm going to give him the pass of he's a little bit older, you know, maybe things hurt. I don't know. But she's like hands, feet narrow together. I've seen pictures of, you know, a lot of celebrities like the Today Show anchors. A lot of times you'll see them standing out on the plaza with their legs crossed, like they narrow, almost as if they're not allowed to take up the space that their body takes in the world, right? It almost looks like an apology. I'm sorry for being up here,
Oh, wow.
And yet these are all people that have all the credentials to be up there, right? They all have a place up there. They've all done the work to be up there. So why apologize, right? So anyway, I just thought it was just interesting, like just to see visually people at the top of their game still don't know the story that they carry in their body, right? They're not aware of it. So when we talk about like training your awareness, like when I work in leadership roles and stuff like that, like I did 5 years of doing like body practices in Marion Correctional. I'd go there once a month with essentially my mentor for the last decade. And we'd go and we would do this program with the incarcerated men there. And with them, the big thing was teasing out aggression versus assertion. Okay, that was the theme that kept coming up. Now they all did the fight, flight, freeze. I mean, fight was a lot. There was a lot of fight and a lot of disassociate, not a lot of appease and comply in there. Okay, we were dealing with men. I mean, the majority of the men that we were with were lifers, or in there. We never asked them their crime, but most of them were lifers. So I can only imagine that they were in there for murder, right? And so working with them to start organizing their bodies through a centering practice of like, what is it that you care about? Like, ask yourself that, like, what is it that you care about? And I guarantee you, if you pause long enough, you'll become aware that your cares aren't necessarily from your head, right? You can feel them in your heart, right? Like there's a resonance there. Like, I care about my family. I care about my children. I don't have to think about it. It's not a good idea. It's just, it lives inside of me, right? And so do a hand on the heart, feel it, right? Feel the energy that's involved there. Then we'd ask them what they stand for. Like, what's non-negotiable for you? Justice, fairness. Like for me, it's like community, whether that's family or my neighborhood, whatever, it's community. So those become your organizing principle, like what you operate from. So when you feel triggered, after you've had a sense of like what I care about, what I stand for, and you get triggered, you're automatically pulled out of that place and into your reactionary place. And now you have a choice because you've developed enough awareness. So now I have a choice. I'm reactionary. I can just discharge and let the cards lay how they fall. That's fine. I'll clean it up later. No fun usually, but I can do it, right? Or I can pause and say, you know what? I'm noticing that's producing something inside of me, and I need to go like just reorient. Sometimes you have to do it in the moment. And so a lot of these practices we do, like we don't close our eyes, we're actually physically standing there because you might have to negotiate something in the moment. So you start training 300 practices, 3,000 practices of what a centered body, what neutrality feels like, right? So that you can start to be in choice. Okay, this person just said this thing. What do I care about? What do I stand for? How do I interact with this person from that place instead of a discharging of emotion? Right? Now, that doesn't mean that you have to roll over. You can still set a boundary, make a request, do whatever you need to do, but you're doing it from a place that's congruent with your values and your ethics. And that is leadership to me. That is leadership. Being able to take action and speak from a place that is congruent with your own ethos. Right? It's not a degree, it's not a certification, it's not a position, it's not a salary, it's none of those things, right? And for me as a woman that was like shied away from power because everything I saw about power was just like, dominance, and it was just ugly stuff. And it like just reformatted the whole story for me, right? It's like, oh, I don't have to prove anything anymore, because I have value, because I have cares, and I have stands, and I can move from those places with grace, holy crap, and dignity. And I can hold your dignity doing it too. It's amazing, And what's cool about that is like, as you're working with clients, I think too, like, leadership is a resonance. Like if you are doing you and you're not taking the bait, whatever that is, like, oh, can you believe this happened to me? Or no, like those examples that Melinda gave. and you're just doing you, that person will attune to you. You become the dominant resonance in the field, and they will attune to you. So the best place for you to be is neutral. Neutral in your cares and what you stand for. But essentially, like I've said this to my massage colleagues, like you cannot care about your client. It sounds so horrible. But as soon as you can have love for them and hold their dignity and care for them without like taking it on. Because as soon as you start taking it on, you have an agenda. And nervous systems recognize agendas so fast, right? So just try to be in a neutral place and try to, like, if you can find your organizing principle and to begin to operate from that, start to train how you react to things, how it feels differently when you can be more responsive and less reactionary, it makes a huge difference. And how you show up, like, you know, like Melinda was saying, apathy, you know, there are people that, you know, you're in a conversation with somebody and really 93% of the conversation is body language, tone of your voice, tempo of your voice, how you're coming off. Only 7% is content. There's a book called Silent Messages that we pulled that from that talks about this. So really you have to be, you know, comfortable and resting inside of yourself to be able to allow that person to match it, right? Because if we're trying to affect change, then we have to interrupt patterns, right? We can't join patterns.
Exactly.
So if you think about like hate begets hate, right? So if you're angry, then I get angrier, and then we just start screaming at each other on Facebook, right? So like, what is it you care about? What is it you stand for? How do you want someone, like, you know, for me, it's like, you know, I have an unwavering faith in humanity. So how do I like help someone see my humanity or reflect back to them their own humanity and interrupt the cycle of whatever nonsense is happening, you know? So a couple things there. All right, what's our next slide?
We have massage as a tool to increase body awareness.
Okay. So so massage is another tool for increasing body awareness. I almost prefer yoga, to be honest with you. Like, I love working with people. I love doing massage, but again, it's just one more tool. Like, how do you get people to start feeling their body? And if people don't want to pay for massage, like, then go do a $13 yoga class, because that is like, you know, like, then you have to do it, you know, it's like, it's not passive, but you definitely feel it and you feel more open. Like noticing how you feel when you walk in and versus walk out. Again, if you can find a practitioner who can be neutral with you and let you have your experience, and this is something that I've learned, like Melinda's description of polarity is very different than my experience of polarity, although it all makes sense. But again, it's not a linear subject. It just, you know, it's all these weird spirals to make sense of it, and it takes forever to comprehend it. But if you can create a space for that person to have whatever their experience, and just let them have their experience and not join it, and then it's done, right? And then they can something else can happen, something else can be produced. So what I find in massage, I do polarity treatments with people, everybody that I see, and it's just finding a way to get them to feel their own life energy circulating through them. So we talked about the five senses, and polarity, the five senses, they really they distort the experience of life. Think about, there's people that are blind, there's people that are deaf, there's people that are disabled. Their life isn't diminished necessarily. They still have a livingness inside of them that is worthy of experiencing, right? Just because we don't understand it because we're able-bodied or whatever, right? So letting them, like, being in neutrality with them, and letting them have their experience, letting that cycle complete itself. I do this a lot with my kids. Like, if they're having an emotion, like, I just want that emotion to stop because it's annoying me. But if I let them have it, it fades away, and then we can have a conversation. It can be resolved, and you're not putting off and stamping out tantrum after tantrum after tantrum that ends up into this big emotional thing that is, you know, unreconcilable anymore, because we've let them have, like, their range of emotion and experience, right? So again, anything that it trains your attunement and assessment, you know, to the body and becoming more aware.
Awesome.
Let's do the next one. Oh, okay, so how I became more aware of my body. So as Melinda said, like I started off, you know, as a theater major. I worked as a personal assistant to David Copperfield to get some training on the road. I learned a lot there, but it took me 10 years to figure out exactly what that was. I ended up being a carpenter on the road. I was working in a heavily male-dominated field. I was, you know, I always enjoyed, you know, Melinda talks about, you know, like we're all here because we enjoy this lifestyle, a fitness lifestyle. And that's very much so. Like I love the feeling of working my body till exhaustion. And I had that experience working as a carpenter on the road with the Rolling Stones. I did their 40 Licks tour back in 2002 and 3. I was working, we did a month of rehearsals, no days off. We were there, you know, walked 2 miles into work, started work at 8 a.m. We would be there till 11 o'clock, midnight, 1 o'clock, back at the next day, back at it again, 7 a.m., walking into work. So, you know, just nonstop, go, 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 55 semi-trucks, doing stadiums, arenas, theaters, in and out, different configurations of loading these trucks. We were loading out till dawn after breakfast. We had breakfast breaks, you know, and then within a couple months, we were loading all those trucks within 4 hours, right?
Wow.
So we're just doing this gig and like streamlining it. It's like, it's high energy. It's, you know, I'm seeing the world, everything is great. And I get to Europe and all of a sudden my body is just screaming at me. And I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? I can't digest anything. Everything was just whacked. And I'm like, okay, well, I'd already been kind of contemplating leaving the road. My husband does the same work. We wanted to have a family, can't both do that. So I'm sitting in Wembley Arena going, I'm done. I have to find something else to do. I look up massage therapy. There's a place right down the street that I can go for schooling. I'm like, okay, great. Do the massage thing and get married, graduate. The day I graduate, I bury my father. My dad passed away of cancer. Like nothing they could do for him. They gave him 6 months to live. Not, you know, he believed the diagnosis and, you know, he did his path, whatever, fine. But it was a big wake up call, right? When the doctors look at you and say, there's nothing else you can do, I bet you're going to be looking to see if there's something else you can do. You know, when it's your life, you're going to be looking to see if there's something else you can do. So that also tied in with like my sister's daughter almost being forcibly removed from her because she was failure to thrive. She wasn't gaining weight. We couldn't figure out what was going on. And they were threatening to take her, that they were going to call social services on her. And they're like, you need to feed her bread. You need to feed her pasta. You need to give, you know, everything that'll gain weight, right? Turns out she's celiac. Well, who heard of celiac in 2000?
Here we go again.
Right.
Here we go.
So again, so like we had like a couple failures in a row where it was just like where the cost was really high, and yet we were trying to do the right thing, trying to follow the experts, trying to follow the rules, and it just wasn't working for us, right? And so then I have a kid, and then I have another kid, and then my body goes crazy, and I have a knee joint that is so swollen, it's bigger than a cantaloupe, and I can't even walk. And I have a newborn, and I have a 17-month-old, and I'm like, what? And a husband who's gone all the time, a mother who's mourning, and in-laws that don't live near. I'm like, I'm no man's land, right? I have no friends because I've been on the road the last 10 years. So I got nobody, right? And I can't walk. So again, go through all the tests. I have crappy insurance because I've always been self-pay and not had a job where it's provided for me. So I'm spending thousands of dollars on MRIs and ultrasounds and all this stuff, only for them to come back and say, we don't know what's going on.
Oh my
We
God.
want to do more tests. And I'm like, okay, so there's no blood clot, there's no structural damage, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm going to go home and guess for free. Okay. So, so when we talk about like when, you know, Melinda touched on this a little bit, like when people are going through a thing and they're trying to make a change, like that was a moment for me. Okay. That was a moment of spiritual crisis, emotional crisis, mental crisis, and physical, biological crisis, right? There's only so many things you can handle when you've got 2 kids and you're like completely overwhelmed. It was, you know, it was a moment. I got the support that I needed by asking the doctors, the professionals, what they could do for me, and they didn't really have much, okay? I fell into I had a home birth, so my midwife had recommended this body worker to me. Turns out she's the one who's teaching me all this stuff about somatics and leadership and how to center in my body and how not to take the bait and not be so reactionary and how to be more responsive, how to ask for help. You know, there's nothing like not being able to walk to be able to ask for help. So, and then you have to receive, right? Am I worthy of receiving it? No, I had a big story about not being worthy of receiving help, right? So like, I think that all these themes like work in people, and I'm overlapping here, but like everybody's got a tape rolling in their head, right? I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. People won't like me. They're always compensating for something. So when you're assessing people as far as their, you know, their intuition and all these personality things about them, that's another layer. Like, are they compensating for something? What are they like? What shame do they hold in their body that they're afraid for people to find out? Like, you know, like what's the tape playing in their head? Guarantee you there's a tape. And if somebody doesn't have a tape in their head, please raise your hand because I'd love to meet you, because everybody has a tape, right? And so we compensate for that tape. So here I am, you know, I'm like, okay, for me, the most palatable change I could make was one, okay, yeah, I can, this somatic thing, this isn't talking to a therapist and her flash, you know, repeating back my problems. This is giving me something operational to do to interrupt these patterns. And so that's why I latched onto it. For me, that my personality was like, I need something operational. So I did the training. I've been with her ever since, and I work with her now. But what it came down to is another inflammatory issue. So that's why, you know, I have this inflammation as far as health goes. Like, I think that's the key. The underlying, like all these foods that Melinda and Brittany were talking about not eating, like they're all inflammatory foods, right? We have an inflammatory lifestyle, go, not take care. If things get stressful, the first thing we knock off is self-care, most people, or, you know, when we should be amplifying it. So all these things, I just feel like if you're going to deal with one thing with people, is look at the inflammation. And that could be anger is inflammation, really, right? So look at that. So Melinda, when Melinda was talking about, like, her and I have done a couple different dietary things to try to figure out root causes of inflammation. At the time she was trying to process different, what food triggers she was having or makeup triggers she was having. My mother was going through another health crisis. And again, being prescribed stuff that would make symptoms worse, wouldn't help the symptoms. And she was losing weight. She went down from 135 to 107 in a matter of a couple months. And she's going to be 70 this year. It was a couple years ago. But, and finally the doctors have said it's in your head. Wrote her off. It's in your head. Or the other one of them did say Munchausen by proxy because she didn't like going to her appointments by herself because English is not her first language. She brought my sister with her, and, you know, and she didn't like driving because she was nervous wreck. Anyway, lo and behold, nobody has any answers for her, and she's just a wreck and just so depressed, no energy. And through a series of conversations and just dumb luck and a couple Google searches, my sister discovered a mast cell disorder for her. And she's like, Mom, look at these symptoms. These look like yours. So a couple more months of suffering because she didn't want to like take the plunge and make the effort and find a possible solution. You know, she's very much attached to the victim mentality. And you'll find that in people. Sometimes people don't want to change. They're just more attached to that victim mentality. And that's where they are. It's okay. Like there has to be a cost greater than, you know, the commitment, you know, like there has to be a cost to motivate the change.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, if it's working for you, you're not going to change.
Right.
You know, if you're a fighter and you're getting to the top of the pyramid and that's where you want to be, there may not be a cost to change. Anyway, so for her, she had to suffer a few months and she decides to go to the appointment. Take her to the appointment. We go to drive to New York to see this guy. He starts describing this thing. You know, we have to identify triggers. Well, it turns out she's not celiac. She's got histamine issues, and gluten is a high histamine food. Okay, so then we start learning about all these different other things that could be her triggers. They're all individualized to her. She reacts to temperature changes. She reacts to cabin pressure in an airplane. She reacts very strongly to stress. All these things flood her system with histamine, and she essentially goes into fight or flight, and you can't really talk to her anymore because she's just too paranoid, right? But again, you know, we ended up taking a lot of antihistamines with her to interrupt her cycle of this craziness and to start identifying. So if you change the slide again, one of the things it's like, how do you discern, again, what your body's telling you and cueing you, what you know is right for you, and when you need help, when you need professional support. So while traditional medicine has failed us many times, we definitely needed it for her to interrupt this cycle so she could begin to sleep, because sleep is where repair happens. So she could start to feel some sense of hope because some of the symptoms were interrupted. But, you know, just believing the original doctors, she would have gone crazy and probably would have ended up killing herself, to be honest with you, because that's how depressed she was, because they were just telling her it was in her head.
Oh my word.
And she would say, I'm pooping blood. It's not in my head, you know? And it just didn't matter. They didn't have an answer. So it was her problem, right? So digging and digging and digging and finding and like getting to a place where she had enough agency. Like, we've made her call the doctor. She wanted us to call the doctor in New York. We're like, no, you do it. You're ready to do it, then you do it. So like fostering any kind of agency in people to get them to move and to interrupt a pattern or anything to make a change in their life, no matter how small it is. If they're not like that, then go for it, right? One of the other things too that I want to just flash back to, when we talk about like reaction versus responding, it's not like a quick fix. Like, it's really the most valuable piece is recovery, right? I've reacted, now I have to recover. And so as you're beginning to practice and you're getting more habituated into this, you know, a neutral place or a centered place, there's a recovery time to get back to that. You can't just like, oh, I had this big reaction, I'm just going to ignore it. That's a spiritual bypass. Like, that's an opportunity. That reaction is an opportunity to like, oh, well, what is that taking care of, that reaction? Like if my husband says something to me and it triggers something, oh, well, is this around connection and belonging? It's not around safety. I don't feel unsafe around him. So like and it's got an old story to it. So like, how do you tend to that? And then how do you regroup and go back to like, what I care about, what I stand for is why I matter. Doesn't matter what this person has produced inside of me, although it's still there and it's always going to be there because I practiced it for so long. But I want to recover. I want to recover to what I know and stand for and move from there, right? And then taking action on that, right? So having agency. So if it's about health, when do you need support, and being able to discern that for yourself, and when it's time for you to kind of like clean up your own house, so to speak, right? Take charge of that. How is everything landing so far? I'm kind of like going through a lot of stuff. Anybody?
Flowing. Yeah, it's flowing. It's all flowing. It's all flowing.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Did you want Melinda help make these slides today? And I didn't get a chance to look at this one particularly. Melinda, is there something that like resonated with you with that last one with the agency?
Yeah, I love that one. I love that agency one. That's great.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering if you wanted to say more about that, because I'm sure you guys see that, like how you see the cycle of change, you know, like start and then stop and then reverse and then come back, you know, so you see that happening, and all of it's part of the normal process from what I understand and what I've seen, right?
Yeah. And like you said about your mother was too low. So she was low on self-agency.
Absolutely.
And finally, she had to get to that prospecting level, and then finally came over and started taking care of herself like a pioneer. So she had to pioneer out of the way of just using a regular doctor and believing the bullshit they were saying, that it was all in her head, psychosomatic and so forth. It was actually real. So she definitely had to go through, so did I had to go through that circle. I thought I was doing everything that I could do for inflammation. And then I was talking to you had to pull me out of that settle. I was starting to settle into, my eyes are going to keep breaking out. They're not going to stop. I can't figure out what I'm allergic to. And so you just get into that mode there, settling, instead of fixing it and fixing it for good. I don't believe in living with anything lifelong at all. If I wasn't born with it, it's not staying in my body.
Right.
So yeah, I love it. I love that self-agency. That last one, because you made some comments here, this was the react, respond, recover. This is your last slide. So I just want to make sure you talk about that just a little bit deeper so we understand that.
So if we look at reacting and we talk about, again, starting in the beginning, I think therefore I am, like I said, when we have these reactions, they are unconscious and they are quick to fire. They took care of something, and the body will react before the mind can even catch up to it. So in some sense, you know, if we change our story too about like the narrative that I said we have in our head, like if we start like claiming a different story, if you will, and as personal trainers, you're actually changing the body as well, or in congruency with that. I mean, I'm doing that with my daughter right now with Melinda. I can see who she is as a person. We've been homeschooling for, 9 years. She's getting ready to go to high school. I don't want her to lose the person that she is because she's going to be influenced by the collective, right? And we're all influenced by the collective.
Yeah.
And so I'm aware that she's got a sense of self that I want to preserve, but she's a very big introvert. So I'm using Melinda to build physical muscle for her to be able to carry that out into the world and hold that space for herself, right? And it's working. It's really, really working. And just, it's just coming, as within, so without in polarity, right? It's all inside of you, but how do you bring it out and have a ripple effect into the world, right? Because everybody has a gift to bring out to the world. So but most of the time the collective is just browbeating you down, like conform, comply, don't speak out of turn. So that's a big wave to navigate, if you will.
Yes.
So, and again, our habits are the strategies that we've had, the fight, flight, freeze, appease, they're not going away. So don't even think about it. The recovery will shorten and you'll get more confident in that, but they're always going to be there. The difference is now you have a choice. It's like, and that's where agency, like most people don't see the choice, that there are choices or more than one choice, many choices. And that's why they don't feel like they have any agency or power to choose a direction, right? So responding, again, that's like finding what you care about, what you stand for. That's your organizing principle. You move from there. This is personal. We're all leaders of our own lives. And this also should reflect professionally for you, any of you that are in leadership positions, that should reflect as well. Your personal belief system should support your professional one as well. And it should be congruent through your workplace. And then again, discernment and recovery, like how a reaction feels in your body is going to feel very different than how you feel when you're thinking about someone you care about, right? It's going to feel different. Just like a yes feels different than a no. Like there are things in your life where it's like hard stop, no, right? That feels differently than, yeah, I want to do that, so start learning that. Just start playing with that. Start paying attention to yourself. If you're standing in line at the grocery store, what are you holding? Where do you feel relaxed? Where do you feel tension? Why do you feel tension there? Like I would be standing in line at the grocery store when I was doing it and find myself not breathing. And I'm like, why am I not breathing? Why? I'm in the grocery store. I'm in line at the grocery store. Why am I not breathing? Because my strategy was to stay small. And if I didn't breathe, I was just a little bit smaller. That was my strategy. So that came up to me in public spaces and all that kind of stuff that always would come up. Even to this day, I have to be very careful. Like, am I breathing? And so once you start tracking that and you start to realize how much energy that takes to maintain that behavior. And that's energy that is not going towards your thriving. So if you want to thrive in this world, you need to attune to where am I wasting energy? Because the reality is coronavirus might do you in, but really the only thing you have any control over is your attention. Energy follows attention. If you think when my knee was swollen, I couldn't think about my knee because it amplified the pain, right? And that's the only place in the body, dis-ease, and pain, where we start paying attention to the body again, right? Every other time, there's so many ways we can numb and disassociate and ignore, whether it's shopping or food or football or drugs, whatever it is, there are so many avenues to numb, right? Yeah. So just start training and get ready to get uncomfortable, if you will. Beautiful. The goal is to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Absolutely. That's absolutely the goal. That's absolutely the goal. And that's what training is for. That's what being an athlete is. That's what working with people is all about. That is perfectly said. And then all of a sudden you get really comfortable in the uncomfortable and you get power. That's where the power is at. Yeah.
Right. And the other thing, last note about an unconscious habit. Remember, when that shit comes up and you want to just browbeat it down, thank it. Your body is a unique, wise vessel. It took care of you. It possibly saved your life. I've been in groups with people that have suffered so much abuse and trauma in their life. And guess what? Their fight or flight freeze, that saved them. Yeah. They would not be here today if it wasn't for that. So thank you very much. And I'm going to choose something else now.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. Thank you very much. I'm going to choose something new. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. This was wonderful. I just am showing on the screen here the 2 lessons or reading assignments that you guys will have. So we've got the one with the nutrition for joint pain, and then you've got the Harvard study on boosting your immune system. So we'll be emailing those over to you, and then you'll be reading those.
I'll put them on the page below.
Yeah, that's fine. But I'm going to email them to all of them.
do
Yeah,
that
let's
too.
send it in an email.
Yeah.
So you
Well,
just have to
send
read
it
that
to
by
me.
next week. Okay.
And then
you
I'll
can
send it out in the MailChimp email.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, so you'll have that. So if any of you have any questions, can you please send us a message here with the questions? I know we went long. I told you we were going long. If you don't have any questions, that's fine. We'll close the lesson up.
We're not going to be this long every time.
Yeah, but this was a very deep
Yeah.
lesson, so we had to get all this depth in.
Yeah.
All right, I am looking to see if there's any messages coming up here. Yeah, where's my message thing? Yeah, I think we have 2 on here. Can you send me the reading from last time too? Yes.
Yeah. Stacy, I don't know how your email didn't get opted in on MailChimp, but I forwarded you the thing from last time from my email. So we got to figure out how to get you like opted back in.
Okay.
Is she even on here anymore?
You're welcome, Christy.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.